Okay, good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here to present this for the competition. So I don't think anybody talk about, so I'll talk a little bit. Oftentimes we hear people say forecast is wrong. That is because it is important. A lot of people has been using this. For example, the stock assessment team, they use it for planning their surveys, like fishery managers, of course, use that for the policy making, and hatchery managers used to for stock collections, and for the salmon that beyond the borders, their negotiation between the states and the tribes and U.S. and Canada, and also used for a lot of science project that is very fun. So because it is a lot of people use it, so people pay more attention to the forecast. I think that's part of the driver of this computation. I just want to say that forecast is challenging. It's even more challenging for this competition because we need to come up with new methods. So in order to come up with new method, we gotta know what are existing methods. I think a lot of other authors already talk about this, but I want to briefly review the logic behind this and the linkage between the existing method and the new method. So the first type of method is the stock recruit models that I think Joshua already talked about. It can be Ricker or Barrett Holt or Power or a bunch of others too. This model works really well if your stock recruit relationship is very strong, like right near the curve that you can fit. But oftentimes what we see in reality is something like this. So most of the case, they are all over the chart. So it's really hard to fit and by just a couple parameters. So the second type of models are those stock recruit models that consider the density dependent effect, but also plus some environmental conditions, such as people talk about the sea surface temperature, PDO, and Brian talk about other covariates, discharge, whatever. In a sense, this kind of model is good because what you essentially try to do is try to drag this curve up and down based on the environmental conditions, so that your stock recruit curve is not actually like the smooth one, but actually has some zigzags based on the environmental conditions. But the challenge of this one is you really got to understand the underlying mechanisms associated with each one. Like there are some exploratory tests that people do, which is pretty good. But in general, it is really challenged to understand, or sometimes it's kind of risky if you misinterpret that. The third part is the naive model. This type of model doesn't consider any of the density dependent effect, so it only focuses on the recruit, not the spawners, like the RS model or so basically what you're trying to do is you are just using the few years that is recent, like a common filter or like the ARIMA model. So you eliminate all the information for the previous years and only use a couple latest years to make that prediction. So for this method, it works well. Sometimes people still use it is because if your time series is having just a very mild variation, so you're just basically giving the average of that. So that makes sense if you have not a very strong interannual variation. But once your interannual variation is super strong, then this model doesn't work because the interannual variation is a part you're trying to forecast. We're not required to forecast, the trend in the next 5, 10, 50 years. We're required to forecast just for next year. So that's drives me to this. This is just a show an example. So basically, for example, I just put the years there. If you try to use 2006, 7, and 8 to predict 2009, it could be somewhere here, which is really down. You're not gonna do a good job. Or you use 2003 and 4 to forecast 2005. You're somewhere here in the middle. You can't get there. So that's a problem. So the new method that I'm thinking is that this is basically I try to identify what are the two historical years escapement that are similar to the target brood year. So I call it nearest neighbors. Sorry, I use N2 because it's similar, but it's not a neural network. So it can be any numbers, not necessarily 2, as long as you think that numbers of years are reasonable. And after that, you just calculate the average recruit per spawner or the survival for that selected years. And then you apply that survival rate to the year, the target year of escapement to predict the age-specific return. And then you keep doing that until you finish all the dominant age groups to get the total return. So for example, if I'm forecasting on 2024, and the dominant age groups are age 4 and age 5 fish, or age 4, 5, 6 fish, then I go to the brood in 2020 and see, okay, for 4 years ago, what is a recruitment? Recruitment is 50,000. Then I look at the historically, like which years the escapement is around 50,000. It's gonna be 2005 and 2015. So I just choose those 2 years and see how much recruit they will give us back on that particular 2 years, and what the age 4 data look like. So I get that age 4 recruits from that 2 years, and then I calculate the survival rate, and then apply to the brood year of 2020, which gave me the return of 2024 on age 4 fish. And then I go to age 5, which is 5 years ago, and see what's the escapement look like. It's 70,000 fish. And then I go to my historical table and say, okay, which years has 70,000 fish? And it's 2006, 7. Okay, I'll use that 2 years to calculate the age 5 fish, and then use that one and apply the survival rate to give me age 5 fish. So I keep doing that for all those ages, and finally I just add them together. So, let's go back a little bit. Think about compared to the first method. This new method, you're not necessarily make the assumption of a particular stock recruit curve. You're still using the information of the stock recruit, but you are not limited to the whole curve. You just localize a particular places. So the benefit of this is if your curve is like this, not going that way, then you probably get better result. This is happens a lot when the escapement is small. So oftentimes it's over forecasting. So I think this is good. And compared to the second method, even though there is no environmental condition involved, but what we are seeing is essentially whatever we see in the past for that particular few years, we're gonna say that the environmental condition would probably be similar to that years because the escapement are similar. So the assumption itself is not that super strong in my understanding. So compared to the third method, the benefit is that we are not required to only use the recent few years information. We can use. So, for example, if we want to forecast 2009, we don't need to use 6, 7, 8. We can use something close to here for 2009, which may give us a more reasonable estimate. So that's what I think could potentially work. Here is just as a result of this simple calculation. I have a code that is available if somebody is interested. It is not rocket science, only 80 lines of code, but I think it is kind of an alternative method we can use. So again, the strength of this method, I think, is basically it doesn't require any environmental conditions, involved a lot of data cleaning and processing and stuff like that. It just requires the stock recruit data that Sean provided, and also it's easy to use because code is already there, and also not very hard to communicate with managers, I think, than a lot of the highly complicated model. So could be a good way to do, and it can also move from one stock to another or different species like Chinook or other salmon. It does have limitations. I should admit that because we only choose a few years, then if the years that you are choosing the data quality is not so good, then you may on a high risk. So before using this method, I think it's the data really need to QA/QC for the stock recruit curve, make sure that they are good, and also like for the last one, it doesn't consider the environmental conditions or those ecosystem interactions. But what I'm thinking is maybe we can have a second dimension of that, and say instead of just using escapement to find the nearest neighbors, we may use temperature to find the nearest temperature neighbors, or use chlorophyll to find the nearest chlorophyll neighbors, and it could be multi-dimension of this method. So all I'm saying is I'm not suggesting using this model, but I do suggest maybe put this model, nearest neighbor model, into the model candidate list and evaluate against other models or official forecast. And I think because I didn't have the official forecast in the historical years for this computation, so I didn't evaluate using the tool, but I think it can be done fairly easy if we do have that data available, and I think whether we are going to use it depending on the model performance. So, if you don't like code, there is a Shiny app developed. So all you have to do is go to the website and download put the data table that Sean provided, and this application is gonna forecast for you to get the number. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for your attention. A lot of people has been inspired me. Many of you are here. I'm not gonna say names, but thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.